Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be talking about 3 really common mistakes that we see with people trying to learn hypopressives, usually on the internet. So we're going to start by looking at the first one, which is people think they need to exhale all of the air. So what we're trying to do in hypopressives is to create negative pressure in the tummy and the pelvic area so that we can get this synergy between the pelvic floor and the diaphragm and enhance it. So when we're exhaling for hypopressives, what we're trying to do is exhale enough so that when we hold our breath and do the rib expansion, we're getting this lift through the pelvic floor and the diaphragm, and that is essentially an automatic response and contraction of the pelvic floor. So that's a lot of what hypopressives is about. But if you try and exhale all of the air, one, it just doesn't work like that. We can't exhale all of the air. But what happens is that the tendency is to actually bear down on the pelvic floor, even without kind of consciously realizing. So what you can do is end up putting pressure through the pelvic floor on the exhale, and then you hold your breath, if you can do the rib expansion, you do that and the pelvic floor moves up. But every time you're doing it, you're putting pressure through the pelvic floor and then you're releasing it, which is obviously not what we want to do. We want to be keeping that negative pressure consistent. So when we do the exhale, instead of thinking about exhaling all of the air, what you want to be thinking about is exhaling that air as it naturally is released at that same rate without increasing the strength of the exhale. So I'll just demonstrate here. So what you would want to do is breathe in and then exhale. So you can see it's quite light. So you want to breathe in for 3, roughly for 3, and the count of 3, and then out for 6. So you're going to slow down that exhale so that you're not going at that same rate, because obviously we don't want to end up forcing the exhale. But what you don't want to do is this, which I'll demonstrate. So you don't want to breathe in, exhale at the same rate, and then at that point increase the strength of the exhale, and so you end up going and really trying to force out the air, so you don't want to be doing any of that. So that's the first mistake that we see. So actually the hypopressive breath is really quite subtle. It's something which needs fine-tuning, and it's best to be taught by a qualified instructor, mainly so that you can get those symptom improvements that you want, because most people are doing hypopressives for symptom improvements, for prolapse and incontinence. The second thing is that because the vacuum breath it does look a bit weird, I'm going to be honest with you. It does look like you're pulling in the tummy. A lot of people sort of see some of the images and think, oh, I need to be pulling in my tummy. So I'm going to show you what it looks like now on me, and then and it will just help explain, kind of show you what I'm going to explain in a minute. So what you do is you breathe in, you exhale, you hold your breath there, pause, and then you expand your ribs. So you can see with that, it actually looks like I'm consciously pulling in my tummy, but actually what's happening is that negative pressure is generating that movement. Basically, we're getting an involuntary, automatic contraction of the deep abdominal muscles, and everything's being drawn upwards in that movement with the pelvic floor and the diaphragm. But what we're not doing is sucking in the tummy, and we don't want to be doing that. So the rib expansion makes that happen. So I exhale, pause, and it's the rib stretch that's creating that. So your tummy, actually, you want it to be really nice and relaxed when you come into the rib stretch, because otherwise, if you hold your tummy tight, which often happens if you've over-exhaled, then everything kind of clamps down. You're trying to like expand the ribs, everything just gets a bit stuck. It just doesn't really work. So that's the other thing that you can sort of make mistakes on when you're a beginner. The other thing we find people think about hypopressives is that it is just about the vacuum, about the apnea breath, which is the effect that you see with the hypopressives, rather than all the poses and things. And it's not uncommon for people to come and say, oh, I've just been doing like lying down and I got some symptom improvements, but then they kind of plateaued and I'm not really getting anywhere. This is because hypopressives is a whole body fitness technique which works the core and the pelvic floor at the same time. So in order to get the best results from hypopressives, you want to be doing lots of different poses which basically work the pelvic floor and the core in a slightly different way. So if you can imagine doing the hypopressives vacuum, say in this position or in this position, compared to like an upright position, so you're in a kneeling position or a standing upright position, things are going to move differently. The pelvic floor is going to be loaded differently. Your internal organs are going to be sitting differently. So what we want to see is you using lots of different poses to get that really lovely effect from the hypopressives. And that's why some people kind of get a bit stuck and they're like, oh, I think I'm doing it right, but I'm not getting the improvements. And actually, like with everything, like with any sort of exercise, you want to really progress the exercises in order to get the full benefits from the technique. So I hope that helps. So those are just a few main things. And what I'm just going to show you now is actually a really quick check you can do just to check that you're not over exhaling. So if you come down onto your back, onto the floor, and pop your hands on your tummy here. So I'll just do a normal vacuum breath here, and you can see what happens with my tummy. So my tummy is going to pretty much stay still. So I'm going to breathe in and out. I'll just come straight into a vacuum. And then I'm just going to show you what happens when I over exhale, when I try to exhale more than I need to. So I'm going to breathe in, and then I'm going to really go for it. So you can see it's not stopping me from going into a vacuum. I can still like over exhale, and my tummy still relaxes enough for me to come into a vacuum. But could you see the really quite big expansion of the tummy, which is that's where we're increasing pressure in the tummy area. And you could probably feel that as well if you popped your hand here at the bottom of your pelvic floor, just to feel and see what was happening when you did that over exhale. So just that simple check can really help you looking to keep your tummy still. So that's it for today. I hope that was really helpful. If you enjoyed the video, please like the video, tell your friends, and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you back here very soon. Take care.